Speaking of Nazis, let's talk about the American Stalinist economics professor who is making waves on Twitter. So this is Dr. Astar Bear, who apparently got a PhD from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and has taught economics since 2001. And he's a communist, a very proud and open communist, but not just any kind of communist. He's a Stalinist. So imagine getting taught economics by this guy. I'm like, look, I think I deserve my money back. I don't think this guy knows anything about economics. Like, call me cynical.
Imagine paying for this.
Yeah, and so out of nowhere, for some reason, just one day, he was like, yeah, so Stalin was great, by the way. He posted a Twitter thread. People say I idolize Stalin. Not true. I hold a fair and balanced view. We've got the Twitter thread. The man was neither a savior nor a saint.
What?
Yeah, but nobody ever said that he was a savior. Well,
except you, maybe, when you're praying to him,
except communists in the 50s, I guess. But he was at once a very successful revolutionary, a great contributor to Marxist theory, and said to be a great listener and collaborator during discussions. This is just like Hitler apologetics. Yeah, but I mean, you say what you want about Hitler, but he was a vegan and he loved his dog.
No, but saying
he was anti-smoking.
He's a great listener and collaborator. He gulagged everyone who disagreed with him. What are you talking about?
Well, that's what I mean. It just sounds like Hitler apologetics, doesn't it?
Hitler listened to the Jews so much. He killed them all, but he did listen to them.
And then there are his great successes as a leader. First, the foresight to fear a belligerent German fascism, then the tactical ability to successfully defeat the world's greatest invading army, combined with the strength to make tough decisions that have no easy answers. Right, that is a weird rewriting of history, because A, Stalin didn't expect the invasion of the Soviet Union, did he? Because he had a pact with Hitler.
Yeah, the Molotov-Ribbentrop pact.
That's right.
Like, one of the funny things there I didn't think to know
he actually trusted Hitler.
Him simping for the Wehrmacht, like the greatest army in the world, like the world's greatest invading army. Okay, I mean, not any of the other armies. I mean, like the American and the British combined forces or the modern American army. No,
I mean, the Wehrmacht was pretty good in its time, I suppose. It had a lot of successes.
Yeah, but it still lost.
Yeah, it did still lose, and I love this. So, the tactical ability to successfully defeat it. No. Right, the Wehrmacht lost because of their tactical blunder to get bogged down in long sieges they couldn't win, right? And that allowed, and it literally took the Soviets. Didn't it take months for them to eventually encircle the Germans?
Well, they just kept burning the land and falling back.
Yeah,
but after the first 10 days in which Stalin hid under a desk.
Yeah, but when they were, I can't remember where they were sieging, but they eventually managed to enround them.
You're probably thinking of Stalingrad, in
Yes.
which they were able to entrap
Yes.
them, destroy the Sixth Army, and then the pushback
Yes.
finally came.
Yes, but that took ages.
Yeah.
And massive losses. And if that's meant to be a superior strategic victory, then oof, is all I can say.
Specifically on the point of Stalin, though, I mean, we have some great examples of this. So we go to the next one. I just want to talk first about the way he said the foresight to fear a belligerent German fascism, which is why he signed an alliance with the fascists. That's what the Molotov-Ribbentrop pact really is. I know a lot of people modern day and in the past have always called it like a non-aggression pact or something like this. No, I'm going to call it an alliance because that's what it was right until the point that Hitler betrayed the alliance. Because it's not just that we agree not to attack each other or we agree that these are the borders and that's it. No, they put up a trade agreement. And it was a way of subverting the British. So then they had a new trade agreement which subverted the British blockade. The Germans received 1 million tons in cereals, 500,000 tons in wheat, 900,000 tons of oil.
Man, I can't believe that Hitler guy wasn't trustworthy.
Oil, though. The one thing we were trying to keep from them, and this is why Operation Pike came up, which was a proposed operation to take down the Germans. Sorry, the oil in the Soviets. So we go to the next one. This is the operation here, in which we actually planned to blow up the Soviet oil refineries in Baku to screw over the Germans, but it would have meant bringing the Soviets against us, which is why they didn't do it in the end. But also the tactical ability of the army. I mean, there's a few operations Stalin's been involved with, and they're mostly a joke. So they have obviously the purge of the army, in which he purged the army of all the good people, and then the next link is just the Winter War, in which you have the Winter War, which is the results of the purge, which is he just gets loads of men killed.
Where they lose horribly to the Finnish.
300,000 to 70,000 Finnish. And then just the next one is one of the battles he's most well known for being him personally doing it, in which the entire high command were just like, don't do this is a really stupid idea. The Germans are invading, we should be on the defense. And he's like, nah, attack. So he took a bunch of conscripts and just threw them at the line, and he lost 300,000 men against 20,000 German losses. Stalin himself was the one who ordered this, against the advice of his commanders.
Yes. So
Tactical genius.
Not a great military genius, but the thing is, a great contributor to Marxist theory is a really amusing statement, because he's the first Marxist I've ever heard say that. I've heard many, 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 many Marxists say Stalin was an idiot and didn't understand Lenin or Marx, and so did not significantly contribute, even though he had his view of Marxism become the orthodoxy, of course, in the Soviet Union, which the same as Mao, of course. But the point is, yeah, he was not like a genius, like this guy's trying to paint him out.
So not even the Marxists make this point.
No. The Marxists especially don't think he's a genius. But anyway, so why would he defend this? We can go to the next thread. It says, my new friends, he obviously got a bunch of subscribers after trending on Twitter for this nonsense. I defend Stalin because of the results achieved by Soviet socialism. Oh, it is socialism now. I was told that it wasn't socialism by all the socialists who were saying Stalin was an idiot and got loads of people killed and killed loads of people. But it is now socialism. So that's good. For the ordinary masses of working people, including a massive increase in life expectancy, one of history's most rapid, in fact, dramatic decreases in infant mortality and improved health. That's how I'd describe the Soviet Union. Maybe for party members, that's true.
Yeah, just everyone who's starving to death or in the gulags, their life expectancy is really ticking up.
Well, I mean, you just leave them out of the statistics, don't you? Because why would you?
If you take off all the dead people, I mean, the life expectancy really does go up quite a bit.
Well, I mean, in his defense, he's a professor of economics and not history. Improved outcomes across the board due to massive investments in public health at all levels. I mean, literally murdering millions of people.
Yeah, but good hospitals.
Good hospitals for the party. Soviet socialism brought universal literacy in a country which only a small fraction had been literate, and invested huge sums in colleges and universities in which students were paid to study. Interestingly, Stalin killed 16 million Christians, burned down dozens of churches and cathedrals. Leaves that out for some reason. Don't know why.
I also love how all the socialists are always like, yeah, the literacy rate went up. As if it's like, some grand deed that couldn't be accomplished ever. It's like every Western country had already done this.
Yeah.
Like, just because Tsarist Russia was backwards, that doesn't mean this is some like grand, like, oh man, we did the literacy rates. Round of applause all around. We taught people to read.
I always hear the literacy rates thing about when they're defending Cuba. It's like, oh, but Cuba's got a 98% literacy rate. Yeah, but we do.
But it's like, it's always put up on a pedestal like they've cured cancer.
Yeah.
Like, no one's ever achieved this before.
Yeah, it's like everyone in the West can read. I don't know what to tell you. Like we didn't even have to become tyrannical. But anyway, so moving on, he says the idea that socialism leads to famine is belied by an interesting source. Measurements of average height increased substantially during the history of the USSR. Such increases are no doubt due to higher caloric intake for children.
Higher caloric intake. Stalin's Soviet Union.
I just want to know what measurements he's using. Because, I mean, all of the dead people would really probably object to this.
I suppose Stalin's height went up during the...
His width went up.
That too.
But this is just such a weird cherry-picking of data. And this is how, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Because this is exactly it. Because, I mean, obviously, if you're ignoring all of the people that starved to death, then sure, their caloric intake isn't important because they had none.
Now, we go to the next link here. I mean, this is just the Holodomor, one of the pictures from that. Which is just dead people dying on the streets.
And just to be clear, this was a totally man-made famine. It was a combination of Lysenkoism and forced collectivism.
So you took all the people who knew how to farm,
yes,
declared them kulaks, heretics, killed them.
Well, yeah, wealthy peasants, they were called. Why? Because they own a cow.
Wealthy.
Very
peasant.
wealthy. Much wealth.
Wealthy peasant.
Yes. That's literally what it means. Yeah. That's literally the double thing. But the point is they resisted forced collectivization, so but farm, and then they either got shot, gulagged, or starved.
And then really stupid science.
Forced confiscation of any grain stores they had. And then, yeah, exactly. Combine that with the ridiculous science of Lysenkoism, which decreed that actually plants were socialist and not inherently competitive, which obviously anyone with a pair of eyes would be like, what are you talking about?
Like wheat has proletariat solidarity.
Yes, so class solidarity.
If you plant more of it closer together, it has solidarity with each other,
yes,
and totally doesn't just starve for the water.
Yes, and of course deeper underground for some reason as well. And this is also what Mao did, which also led to his Great Famine, which is very, very interesting how our dear professor doesn't know any of this.
Oh, he does. But he says it didn't happen because it wasn't real socialism. It's not just the Holodomor.
Did he say that? I didn't see
that. You've got the Kazakh famine as well, but you've also got places like Katyn, in which Stalin just ordered 20,000 Poles to be shot in the back of the head. There's loads of other instances of mass executions, Katyn just being one of the easiest examples for the video evidence. I think it was the Germans who dug up the graves and the Germans took picture of it, and then they had the Swiss, the Swedish, come over to verify it, because then it wasn't just fascists saying this. And they're like, yeah, I mean, they're the Germans, and even the Germans were a bit weirded out by this.
Germans like, oh, this is a bit rough.
Anyway.
So anyway, the guy is lying a lot. And but these lies did, of course, get him trending on Twitter. But that's not a great surprise, because every day on Twitter, something like Marx, Nazis, Holocaust, or Jews trends every single day. So it's actually a rare and interesting occurrence that Stalin trends, because normally nobody's prepared to actually make a defense of what is possibly history's worst mass murderer, actually ahead of Genghis Khan. So good job, Dr. Astaire Bear. Good job. But
I like how he's so happy about it as well. And he's like, look at the editorializing Twitter's done. What did Twitter say? So they had trending in the United States, Stalin. Economics professor Dr. Astaire Bear applauds Soviet Union ruler Joseph Stalin's discussion, style and contributions to Marxism, comma, whilst others point out that Stalin's regime killed millions of people.
It's literally like Hitler apologetics. Yeah, but look at Hitler's amazing road system. Yes, but he did kill millions of people. Yeah, but
I bet that's never happened as
his contributions to National Socialism.
He's correct that is editorializing by Twitter there, pointing out that Stalin did kill millions of people. But
technically true, yeah.
I mean, sure, but it's also a fact. But the other part there, I just imagine like a Twitter employee ever writing like that for Hitler. Like trending in the United States, Hitler. Economics professor so-and-so applauds Hitler's, grand roads, all the rest of it. But people point out he did kill lots of people, No, they wouldn't write anything that complimentary.
But he carries on with these thoughts for some reason. I hope it's obvious that whenever you criticize a country, particularly when you use your own use terms like evil, monster, and genocide, we just use those just generally. You are implicitly arguing that your own country does not do the same or worse.
No, it doesn't.
No. At no point has the United States deliberately starved its own people. It just hasn't happened.
Like, there's no Katyn. Like, there's no just open execution of loads of civilians. Why? Just because they might rise up against us?
Maybe you could argue back in the 18th century or something, there was, attacks on Native Americans.
Yeah, but there's no Katyn. Like, there's no just line up all the women and children and shoot them in the back of the head and then dump all their bodies in here and walk off.
And then forcing people to starve to death and stealing all their stuff.
Millions upon millions as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even Tsarist Russia looks better compared to the Soviet era.
Yes, it does. Anyway, so he carries on. You are arguing that your own country does not do the same or worse. And the Swiss are probably just like, look, we've got real problems with the Soviet Union and what's Switzerland ever done? I mean, from a Swiss point of view, I think you could actually argue that really convincingly. Since the USSR is accused of killing millions of people, it's only because of all the bodies.
Accused.
Accused. The default assumption is then that the US, Britain, France, Germany, and Japan, and the other countries which make up the imperialist powers of the world, have killed 0 people. Who says that? Who says that? Who says
Japan never did anything wrong?
Exactly. Who says
that's why they got nuked, because they did nothing.
Who says that Germany never killed anyone? Who says that, Doctor? Don't get me wrong. The US, Britain, and France, we killed lots of people too.
Yeah.
Lots of people die, but the reasons that they die are what's important.
Germans.
Yeah, lots of Germans. It's just amazing. I'm afraid that nothing could be further from the truth. Well, then why did you make it up? No one says that, Doctor. No one, ever. The countries I've mentioned all have death tolls well into the millions. Yeah, millions of Germans. But of course, this is particularly true of the US, which routinely kills and displaces tens of millions all over the world. Oh yeah, it just does it.
What do you mean tens of millions?
Just for the fun of it. Just displacing tens of millions. I'm not going to tell you where, but they just do this, right?
No, he gives an example.
Oh, okay.
3 to 5 million in Korea. Yeah, the Americans did that. Kim Il-sung never invaded the South, and the South had to retaliate and call on the Americans for aid. And then the Chinese invaded to try and bolster the communists who started the war. Yeah, the Americans did all that.
The US then killed 2.5 million people in Vietnam. What happened in Vietnam, Callum?
Just communists didn't do nothing. Like, there's a war between communists and the United States. The Americans killed everyone.
And
that's where it ends.
The Stalinist professor's like, yeah, the Americans are the bad guys. Didn't you know? It's like, sure.
But just anyone who dies anywhere near the Americans, where in the communists having a war, the Americans killed them. Like, a tree falls in the woods, a person dies, even if he's been shot by Mao, America did this.
Analysing societies is complex, nuanced work, unless you're talking about the Soviet Union, of course.
Or a Stalinist, in which case it's just America's fault.
Yeah. It requires that we recognise the many contradictions that all societies have, and the modern nation-state is built on blood, full stop. But what do you think the Soviet Union was built on? Yeah, I mean, like, literally Romanov blood to the very beginning, before anything else. But then we come to find that apart from the lies told about socialism, it has a record of actually delivering what is promised. Rapid industrialization and economic growth, while an economy that is structured for the needs of the average person. I mean, this is fantasy land. Absolute fantasy land.
It's just like, we got rapid industrialization. Yeah, but you killed half the village, mate. Yeah, but we got the industrialization. It's like, yeah, there's a cost benefit here. Like in the manifesto, you weren't professing also I'll kill everyone.
I mean, he's got to Mao's point. He was like, look, we may have to kill half the world, but then the remaining half will be socialist.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, great. While recognising that the capitalist powers and the global marketplace put limits on the power of any state, how do we know that people's lives were better under socialism? Well, we'd shoot them if they said otherwise, I guess.
And also they'd leave at the first instant.
Yeah, we had to put up big walls so they couldn't escape.
Yeah, the anti-fascist wall around Berlin to stop the fascists from getting into East Berlin.
I love that the North Korean defectors are desperately struggling to get out. He's like, no, socialism is making your life better. Yeah. Well, we could look at literally any measure of human well-being that social science has. Well, now you're throwing social science into doubt. All of them, from caloric intake to life expectancy to infant mortality to literacy to absolute poverty, etc., show the success of structuring society so it meets human needs rather than capitalism, which is based on what most effectively puts society's wealth in the hands of few.
I love the whole, like, caloric intake, height, whatever. Body count, that's a word. That's something we can measure.
But I just love the fact that he thinks that the statistics from the Soviet Union are in any way reliable.
Yeah, I mean, they're all garbage on their own, but we have the bodies, like the skulls exist. You can get the teeth out.
There are literally loads of people who at the time defected and said, hey, this is really bad. I mean, it was in the late 50s when the crimes of Stalin started coming out, and the left in the West had to pivot on a dime and be like, oh, right. That's not us. We're not that. That's not socialism. We're with Trotsky. We're with the other ones. You know, it's like, okay, you admitted. You admitted in the middle of the 20th century that Stalin was a monster and that socialism wasn't happening in the Soviet Union. And now this guy's like, actually, but if I just lie about everything, maybe it was.
What a stupid move, though, to be like, yeah, Stalin's killing people. We're not with him. We're with the murderer known as Trotsky.
I mean, socialism has been through many crises.
It's like turning around and being like, wow, that Hitler guy. But Mao, I'm with him.
That Mussolini guy. It's all the socialists of the 20th century, though. It's an absolute catastrophe. But anyway, folks, the bourgeoisie has tried to fool us into thinking socialism is the great killer and oppressor of humanity. No, we will not be fooled. That dubious crown is held by capitalism. The sooner we overturn this system, soaked in blood and dirt, as Marx puts it, the better off all of humanity will be. This is a purely religious sentiment. This is messianic. If we achieve the perfect socialism that this person believes Stalin embodied in some ways, then humanity would be better off for it. This is totally religious zealotry.
The bourgeoisie has tried to fool us into thinking that socialism is the great killer.
He's a part of the bourgeoisie.
No, but they're trying to fool you into thinking that socialism is a great killer. The bourgeoisie. I mean, if we define the bourgeoisie as all the people you're going to kill.
Historians?
No, but literally, no, because think like the kulaks, they're the bourgeoisie.
Yep.
The people who disagree with socialism, they're a bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
The Poles, bourgeoisie. Kazakhs, bourgeoisie. Yeah. Like, so on and so forth. Every ethnic group you decide you want to kill, they're bourgeoisie. So,
and class group, everything.
Everyone you want to murder is the bourgeoisie who thinks you're a great killer. Not a surprise. So who's not the bourgeoisie then?
And all of those people that you're saying we're going to kill are like, hey, I think those socialists are going to kill us all. Yeah. And like, no, they've fooled you into thinking that socialism is the great killer. Well, the body counts.
Yeah, but you always think of the bourgeoisie as like the top 1%. That's how they always say it. But the bourgeoisie, when you say literally everyone who disagrees with us, the Kazakhs, the Ukrainians, the Polish, the Lithuanians, the Latvians, the Estonians, when you keep going like this, all the Jews, they're also bourgeoisie. It's like, the 2% really is just you guys.
Oh, yeah.
The bourgeoisie makes up 98% of the population.
Yeah, someone should ask him about Stalin's opinion on the Jews. I'm sure he is very, very progressive. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.